Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a sketchbook flip through from 2019 to 2022. Now when I was thinking of doing this, I thought that I didn't have enough to show because around the time of 2019 I experienced burnout. I felt like I didn't know how to draw anymore. I felt like I didn't know how to even paint anymore. I didn't know what my style was or what I wanted it to be. I was unhappy with the sketching materials I was using. I felt like I was unhappy with watercolor, and I didn't even want to admit that to myself because I had attached myself to this idea that I was a watercolor artist and I had to just stay a watercolor artist, even though I had wanted to dabble with other mediums. I'm actually kind of embarrassed to show you some of these sketchbooks because they're not what I just find them embarrassing. Anyway, I'll get stuck into the first sketchbook. Not all of these are fully filled out because I was trying to figure out what sketchbook I wanted to use, what materials I wanted to use, so not all of these that you see in the video, they're not all filled. So with all that being said, if you do like the video and you want to give my past self some sympathy, if you could give me a thumbs up or subscribe, leave a comment, that would be great. Okay. Oh, I already see what this is. I don't want to show it. Okay. So, okay. Here we are. So, what was happening in this? Okay, so this was around the time where I was struggling with trying to incorporate a sense of atmosphere into my sketches that I would have used in a plein air painting. I love plein air painting, but when I'm plein air painting, I feel like it's a different process for me over sketching. I don't know if that, hopefully that makes sense, but I wanted to try and incorporate less detail, but yet I still wanted detail and I wanted atmosphere. Like I wanted that loose quality and I couldn't figure out how to do it. I also had just switched to a portrait format in the Moleskine, and I was really struggling with the Moleskine because it wasn't taking water how I wanted it to. I felt like it was no longer suiting my needs and I didn't really know what to do. And you could probably see here the water gather in the gutter. Those of you who have followed my sketching series, you'll know I just like to throw water and I didn't know what to do. I don't want to turn the page. Okay. So I have an issue when it comes to color, especially an unusual color, which is, like if it's a pink building, orange, magenta, and you very rarely get to use those colors in urban sketching at a grand scale. And I have an issue when I lay down the color, I don't want to go over it and make shadows, and I really struggled with this because if you hear this area, this patch of color, I loved it and I didn't want to go over it with shadow. And again, I know it's not the right thing to do, but I'm gonna blame the paper because no, I shouldn't blame the paper. It was my own fault. I didn't want to go over any of it. Looking at this now, I know what I would do. I would fix the roof. It's too loose. The last stage here that I see for the shadows is too faint. I like the windows. I like that I didn't just make them completely square. I like that I tried. And again, this was in 2019, also on location. I remember this day. I had a headache. I remember it was a gorgeous location. I was with fun people. And all I kept thinking was my headache, and everything was so bright. I guess it's been a migraine or something, but it's a lot more subdued than I would usually do. And I actually think that's because of my headache. But I love the boats. When I first started sketching boats, I hated them. I didn't know what to do or how to make them look sketchy and loose. And I love these. I actually really like this. I like the blooms in the sky. These were just some gouache thumbnail sketches from Anna Maria Island when I went to visit, and I had taken some pictures and I just wanted to capture them here. I don't know what this is. So this was during, I don't think I had sketched in a very long time, and then I had this idea of sketching a woman, not from a reference or anything. I think I was watching TV and I just was doodling, and I wanted to draw a woman drinking hot chocolate, and it just had a mind of its own. I drew her hair going upwards like flames, and then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if I had people roasting marshmallows over the flames of her hair? It's a little strange, but I like it. And then this was the end of this sketchbook. I think I moved on. I tried I think this is Stillman and Burn. I think. Yes. I tried a Stillman and Burn. I thought that it would make a difference. It didn't. It was the same scenario. Oh gosh. So I even write here that I really struggled. Really struggled with this one again. Not sure if it's the paper or I'm painting something I'm not interested in. Oh well. I think that was the case. And I also noticed with this particular paper, I don't know if anybody else has had this struggle, everything just blended into one, and when I tried to scrub out various parts, it just didn't work. It just didn't work at all. Ugh. Again, same scenario. I couldn't figure out how to use the paper. I don't think it has enough tooth for my preference. I moved on from this one. Here we move on to an Alvaro Castañer multimedia sketchbook. I thought this would make me paint like him. No, I don't know what I thought, but I've barely used it. So this I sketched at the beach, which I actually love sketching at the beach, but I find that any sketch that I do at the beach, I don't like it. I don't know if it's because of the brightness of the sun hitting the sand and it blinds me. I don't know. But I actually love this paper. I know that this is a Fabriano paper, but when I've gotten a Fabriano paper that's larger, it doesn't feel like this. So I'm still on the lookout. More beach. I'd wanted to work more on the sky blue gradient to then the sea blue and have the composition work out. And that was the end of that. I then found this moleskin with black paper, and I thought that was extremely cool. This was around the time that Notre Dame set on fire, and I did a sketch of it. I had some comments thinking that this was the building crying, but that's what the building looked like in the picture. I was just mesmerized by the footage of it on fire. I thought it looked so majestic, so I wanted to sketch it, and I thought the black paper would work really well, and it did. It was difficult to paint gouache on this paper as it is completely smooth. So there was some pooling here and in various areas, but it doesn't matter. And then we had gone to the aquarium. I thought the jellyfish were beautiful and cool. I added some sparkly paint, which you can't really see, but I enjoyed that very much. So now we move on to this gem, this font of embarrassment. Okay, so as you saw from the previous sketchbooks, I was lost. I was artistically lost. I think I maybe saw this on Instagram or Amazon, I'm not sure, and it was a prompt book. It would say things, so the circle was already here on the page, and it said, draw an animal. I drew a snake with the circle with the ball in its mouth. And it's just like that the entire way through. So draw Egypt, and there was a triangle on the page. So I drew pyramids, added gold, and I drew this little Egyptian looking cat. This one said, what is in the grass? And my first thought was a pot of gold. And leprechauns go with the pot of gold. And I'm quite pleased with this because I didn't have a reference for this leprechaun that I remember. I don't remember copying it. I don't even remember searching it. And I like to add my little splashes, and I used gold pen for the gold. And I remember my daughter really thinking this was funny and fun. Draw what's on a mountaintop, and I drew a sign at the top of the mountain saying restrooms. Again, I drew my cat in different poses. Draw a ghost, I drew Pac-Man. And then around here, I was done with the whole prompt thing. There's the rest of the book. Draw a rat's dreams. I drew a cheese table that I never colored in. And then I got bored of this and didn't fill in the rest. With the difficulty I felt like I was facing, I thought, I saw a YouTube video on how to make your own sketchbook. I even did the binding. I hand sewed the binding. I then glued the binding. I then kept it pressed in place. I had grand ideas for the cover. I bought all the stuff to do it. And then I just decided I didn't like it. I did this as I was watching a film, and I was just really happy with it. I'd just felt this desire that I just needed to paint. I wanted to paint, and this is what I painted. And then again, this next one, it was really I think the start of me really loving and enjoying trying to paint portraits. Nobody ever really cares about. Everybody just cares about my urban sketches, but I loved this. I love how I was able to make the skin look smooth. I think it's striking. It was from a reference photo that I had found on Instagram. I was really proud of this. This is a hardback, which I prefer the size of the hardback ones, but I wish they also did landscape in a sketchbook format. I know they do the ring bound, but I don't really want that. I want the sketchbook feel. Now this is a mishmash. Oh, this is also I think this was the last sketch I did of 2019. And I remember this. There was the urban sketching group I was with. We were at a restaurant overlooking this hangar, and it was quite cool. I mean, I'd never sketched airplanes before, let alone one taking off, and it really wasn't that much to look at where you would think, oh, let me paint this beige hangar and some planes outside. I mean, it's not something that interests me, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I love how the sky turned out. I love it when the sky turns out well, especially with the blooms. Oh, these are also 2019. This was, I think, my first urban sketching video that I have on my channel. After this, I had a newfound appreciation for people that sketch cars, because I struggled with this. If you've seen the video, I redraw the car, erase it, redraw the car, erase it. I hated it. I hate sketching cars. I think it's something I've got to work on. I avoid them if possible, but I do like this sketch. I like that. I think there's a difference emerging, that it was something that I wanted to sketch. That I had seen on a drive. I'd visited this restaurant before. It was mundane, yes, but I like how it turned out. I like that I felt inspired by it, and that was the turning point for me. I loved this sketch. I especially love this guy here. I love the blooms and the lights. I love that I went bold and I kept it dark. I would actually really like to do something like this again. I just need to pluck up the courage. I have some ideas of where I could go. I wanted to not have them drawn in individually. I wanted it to be just hints, just a shadow of a person, just the essence of the people there. I was so nervous being in here. I thought that everybody would think I was being weird. I don't think anybody even looked in my direction. This one, I remember what drew me to it was it had a really bright turquoise roof, and the building, however, was very long, and I didn't want to go over the gutter with it, so I shortened the building. I took the wrong palette. I took an older palette of mine, and it had Viridian Hue, which is one of my favorite colors, and I just went to town with that color. I think it made the sketch, actually. I love this page. This is a recipe for lemon and blueberry cake, and I love how juicy. I love that the blue and the purple are blending into the cake. This is actually one of my favorite things that I loved to do a while back, was if I found a recipe that looked nice, it was just therapeutic and calming to just include it in a sketch. There's no rules, you know, you just fling paint around and it's just an enjoyable process. I didn't do this one on location. It was a building that nobody used anymore. I think if I was to do this differently, I've said before that I have a tendency to just go right to the edge of the page, and I don't want that. I like a lot of white space around my sketches, so I have no issue with this. I just wish I'd made it smaller and had a bit more white space. But I do love... Maybe I should have just kept it at this. I don't know. I do like how I did the trees behind it. This was a truck I'd seen parked somewhere and they were selling flowers, and I thought that was really cute. People were having photos, taking photos outside of this. I liked this building and I liked the look. Painted in January. When I was looking at it, the grass was kind of faded and burnt a little bit, and I tried to include that in the yellow. And I wish I would have had some lost edges in here and there, but I really like this sketch. This particular sketchbook I think is a Handmade. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but this was my first sketch of 2021, and there were some people, kids, adults playing football, soccer, whichever you want to call it. I just had a brush pen with me and I had never just sketched something like this, and I really love how it turned out. I loved the painterly quality. I loved that it looked like paint. Yep. This was the same scene painted in different ways. So with this one, I wanted very smooth washes. This was not meant to happen. And this one, I didn't bother at all. And I really love them both. This one got more likes on Instagram. This wasn't meant to happen, but I still think it looks cool. Kind of looks like a moon set or a sunset, but I really like them both. I love the texture on this one, and I love how this one looks so smooth. I was just poolside, and I actually did this with Winsor & Newton watercolor markers, which I'd never used before. And I'm not 100% on them, but I actually really liked them. They work really well with a water brush. You definitely have to have a watercolor paper for it. This was another sketch at the beach. I liked how there was just a swath of dirty blue sea and all these buildings in the back and construction and a huge crane. I thought that might be quite fun to sketch. I'd wanted to practice portraits, and I'd seen that there was something called 100 head challenge, and it was to do 100 heads, I think in a week or maybe more, I'm not sure. I loved the idea of it. I've been wanting to practice portraits And I chose this sketchbook even though it's quite smooth. I like how thick the paper was. I wanted to use gouache. So this was the first one I ever did. And I didn't want it to be too detailed. I wanted to have the brush strokes. I wanted to have those paint marks. I didn't want to be too close to skin tone. I think I did this in about 40 minutes, maybe less. And it's kind of the same thing for these others. And same, I think she looks like Rebecca De Mornay. It wasn't meant to be her. This was the last proper one I did. And now, this is the sketchbook I currently use. I want to change up again. I feel like these are too small for me. I want something a little bigger, and I also want I think I want to go landscape again, but I think a lot of these you will have already seen. These are just some doodles. You remember this? It was a huge tree. I'm not fond of including people in my urban sketches. I'm not sure why, but I wanted to include them here for size reference. This was just a quick little on location. We were at a pretty park, and I think there were some botanical gardens, and I felt like I wanted to paint. It's not my most favorite work, but I like it because I remember I felt very content and peaceful. This was a huge cathedral, and I did paint this on location, and I do like the texture, but I did have a lot of struggle with it. I think I sketched it too big. Maybe not. I think there was too much to focus on, and I had wanted to just focus on the dome. Then I changed my mind halfway through and wanted to focus on the center. I changed my mind. I wanted to just focus on the column, but then I thought if I focus on this, boring, and I want to add the rest. And then I thought if I add the rest, I want to add the dome. There was just a lot of issues going on. Ugh. This I was so excited about. I loved the splashes of pink. I loved it. I had gone out of my comfort zone to sketch this, and there were a lot of people around, and I tried to include them all. And I had filmed, or I thought I had filmed this, and when I got home, I had only filmed about 16 minutes of it. My camera shut down due to overheating or something, because it just turned off without any explanation. I did really enjoy this, and I love the hot pink splashes. This is also on my channel. It was my first time sketching an octopus inside a restaurant. The only other place I'd sketched was Starbucks. It was a cool kind of place. It was like had a cafeteria vibe to it. And there were a lot of people outside and inside that were content creators. And so that was fun. The water taxi. It was an ordeal. I still had fun. I loved it. The weather was really nice. I love the splashes. I love the reflection in the water. I actually just love this bit. This I wasn't ever even going to sketch it because I was in the car, it was raining. I added some interest by making a light on at the top, which wasn't there when I was looking at it, but I figured if it was just all black windows, it would be kind of boring. This I was really happy with. Again, I almost didn't sketch this because I thought it was boring. For others, I was interested. I liked the weathered look of the boards, but where it was located, it's a really unassuming building. I think it's just a kiosk that nobody really even goes to, but I liked it. Here we go with the color. I enjoyed this, but I struggled because once I laid down this gorgeous color, I didn't want to go over it with anything else. And when I force myself to go over it or, give some lost edges, I do it badly. but I like it. Another sketch from my videos. I loved the orange. This one I struggled with. It was a little bit of a boring building. I know what I would do different. I would add more of a stronger shadow. I would take this away and add some darker color here for the pavement. It's always a different thing when you're sketching outside over sketching from a photo. You have more time to think and to plan, whereas when you're outside there's a lot of stuff you miss and you can get flustered. You know, there's people all around you, there's people that come up to talk to you, and it can be a bit intimidating because they always decide to come at the time when it's at the ugly stage, and we all know my sketches spend a lot of time in the ugly stage. But that's all the sketchbooks I have for now. I know it was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you, and I will see you in the next one.